Welcome to the fascinating world of Vedas, undisputedly the oldest written literary and philosophical text in the world. From the mundane to the intellectual, the Vedas are packed with incomparable insights into virtually every aspect of life. Compiled over several centuries, the Vedas leave no aspect of the human condition untouched. Above all, they give us a ringside view of the people, the society, and the culture of those times. And helping us understand the intricacies of these ancient texts is Dr. G. Ramakrishna, renowned professor of English and distinguished scholar of Sanskrit and Vedic literature.
And therefore, in the Almirah of books chronologically arranged, if there be any of human making, the first place will always belong to the Rig Veda.
Graduating from the University of Mysore, Dr. G. Ramakrishna obtained his Masters in English Literature from the University of Wales, United Kingdom. On his return to India, he joined the prestigious National College in Bangalore as Professor of English Literature. In his long and illustrious career at this venerated institution, Dr. G. Ramakrishna earned the love and respect of students not only as an excellent teacher, but also as a friend, philosopher, and guide. A prolific writer, Dr. G. Ramakrishna has authored several books on the Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita, and other Puranic texts. A man of many parts, Dr. G. Ramakrishna is an accomplished exponent of yoga, has a keen ear for music, is an avid trekker, and an inveterate globetrotter. And so, dear viewers, here is Dr. G. Ramakrishna in his own words. The poets of the Rig Veda had no reservations in depicting the mores and norms existing in society. They were as at home expounding on spiritual matters as they were in exploring intimate sexual relationships. Theirs was a world of introspection and reflection. They were keen observers who chronicled the changes happening in societies with honesty and integrity. Not everything in the Rig Veda is sacred. There is a lot of secular ideas as well. Life depicted is one of diversity, not simply ritualistic or tradition-bound.
In the present talk, we shall look at a few passages of the Rig Veda to get to know the variety of topics and modes of expression. Although we have already acquainted ourselves with a few hymns, we shall look at a few of them from a slightly different angle. For example, there is this dialogue between Yama and Yami, which I have referred to earlier briefly. The purport of the dialogue is something related to the patterns of life, social relations, changing social relations, how they keep changing. There is nothing like a static society. Even the social mores will keep changing depending upon the kind of social setup that they accept for themselves or create for themselves. One may be a bit surprised to know that the Veda, which is said to be an Apaurusheya text, has abundant material on community life, the ethos of the community, the conflicts within the community, the values that the community cherished, and so on. And Yama-Yami dialogue is one in which certain aspects of this come to the fore. It helps us to recognize the evolving historical epochs, the evolution of society in brief. It is incest that is at the center of the dialogue. We need not jump to the conclusion that there was incest as a practice during the Rigvedic times. It is only a memory of a period when that was in vogue. The two who are engaged in the conversation are Yama and Yami, brother and sister. And Yami invites her brother to have sex with her. She says, "What kind of a brother are you? You don't respond to my urge," and so on. "Leaving your sister orphaned, what kind of a brother are you?" That's the way in which the conversation begins. And then she also chides him, saying, "Maybe you are devoted to some other woman, and therefore possibly you are acting like a horse which is tied to a post, not looking for anything beyond what is given in the restricted circumstances. So your woman is a tree and you are tied to her. Pity that your woman is such a dead wood, not allowing you the kind of freedom required for a young person like you." The chiding remarks of Yami possibly indicate how there is that passion in her. The way in which Yama responds and the dialogue that continues brings out a few aspects which we shall see. It says, "You say that I am wedded to a tree." You see, there is a metaphor. That woman supposedly being the fiancée of Yama is like a tree. It's a metaphor. "Well, if I am wedded to a tree, it's fine, but you find someone for yourself and be devoted to each other and be happy. Why do you want me to be of any assistance to you in this? Like a horse tied to a tree or a post remains united with it, you please be devoted to a person. Be tied to him. Have a swell time. Why do you want to have any sexual relationship with all and sundry and me?" There is this one mantra which seems to be attractive. "Anyamushutvam yami, anyavutvam parishtajate libujeva vriksham. Tasya tvam mana ichha satavadha krunushva samvidam subhadram." He is referring to the changing social mores. What was proper at one given point of time is not proper for all contemporary times. See, we may recall, for example, a narrative which we have in the Mahabharata. Shalya is speaking to Karna. And Shalya says, "Karna, you see how things have been changing in society. In Duryodhana's court, I had once heard somebody telling me about the norms that exist in a tribal community somewhere far away. Of course, now you can't expect that kind of a life in Hastinapur, all right. A society where promiscuity prevailed." So they were talking about a society where promiscuity was the order of the day. And Karna is surprised, and you see the description of promiscuity in Mahabharata as narrated by Shalya to Karna. We are likely to consider it very lewd today if we read that passage. But Vyasa had no reservations in depicting a pattern of tribal life, not that it prevailed during the days of the Mahabharata. If it did not prevail during the days of Rig Veda, how could it prevail during the days of the Mahabharata? But it is a memory that in society there have been norms of that kind in vogue, and that they have been undergoing a change. The dialogue between Yama and Yami brings out this kind of a change in the norms of society. See, it is not a static world. Rig Veda does not present to us the facets of one particular period of a particular community at a particular location and so on. There are ever so many memories from the past with respect to social norms, with respect to their eating habits, with respect to their love making, so many other things. The other idea that I wish to refer to is something which we had discussed earlier, that is in the context of what is called Ruta in the Rig Veda. In simple terms, Ruta, as we have already understood, refers to the natural order, the regularity with which, although as I mentioned earlier, the postmodernists seem to think that this kind of regularity is not a feature which needs to be taken very seriously. Ruta is natural order, and then it also gets extended to the ethical field, and then it becomes moral order. There also you must stick to certain specific patterns of relationships, etc. The interesting thing about Ruta is that you have something corresponding to this in at least two other schools of thought, in two other geographical locations. One is in the Avesta. Avesta is something like the scriptural text of ancient Persia. Ahura Mazda is the god who is the most powerful and the most helpful god and so on. Now, Ahura Mazda is something like Varuna of Rig Veda. Now, Varuna is in charge of Ruta here, and Ahura Mazda is in charge of what they call Asha. See, there are several names given to Asha in the Avesta. Artha, Ereta. The very sound of these names, you see, like Artha, Ereta, suggests to you that it has something corresponding to Ruta of the Rig Veda. That the Indo-Iranian people and Indo-Aryans had a common ancestry is what is obvious. The makers of the Avesta and the makers of the Rig Veda had their ancestors in the Indo-Iranian segment, and that is why some of these ideas have been percolating in similar forms in these two texts, particularly the collective life of the people. Ruta belongs to a period when the collective life was at its highest and its best. The norms in all ancient societies are similar, is the point that I want to emphasize. In ancient Greece, there was the concept of Moira, for example. Although Moira is not precisely the same as Ruta, there are several characteristics which are common to both Ruta and Moira. I refer to this only to emphasize that ancient societies have norms which are similar if not identical. The next thing I wish to take up is an analysis in the briefest form possible of some of the hymns of the Rig Veda which are of some historical interest. Essentially, the compilation of the Rig Veda is a literary compilation. To think that it was written for the sake of usage in rituals is an absurd thought. They were not written for being employed in rituals, although later on many of them got employed in rituals. In fact, there are texts which tell you which mantra is to be utilized in what context, in which ritual and so on. But these were not written for the sake of the ritual. Essentially, they are expressions of certain emotions, certain ideas, and so on. There is a genre in poetry called as the dramatic monologue. We have it in plenty in English literature. For example, Browning's poems are supposed to be replete with dramatic monologues. Whether it is a grammarian or a lover, they indulge in that reflection to themselves. It is kind of introspection and dialogue within themselves. Here is a gambler who indulges in the typical dramatic dialogue. There is the dice, and he is remorseful because he has become a slave to the dice. It's like an intoxicating drink for him, an addiction. And for the gambler, whether you should have sympathy or contempt is a question which the poem poses before us. You see how he is looked down upon by members of the family. Dveshti shashruhu apajayarunadhi nanathito vindate marditaram. His father-in-law, for example, he frowns, shouts at him, dveshti, he hates this fellow for good reasons, because his daughter is wronged. And then there are people who throw glances at his wife when she goes around in the community. Anye jayam parimrishanti. And then parents, brothers, everyone chastise him verbally. Pita, mata, bhrataraha, yena mahu, na janimo, nayata baddhametam. If the time comes, they will even disown this fellow. Keep giving it up. And this man also is in that tradition, giving up the idea of playing dice and be unpopular, but never succeeding in that endeavor of his. The main thing that we should possibly conclude from this hymn is that even in Rigvedic society there was gambling. And there was a place earmarked for gambling, the gambling den. And there were families who perhaps got ruined because of the gambling den, but nevertheless it was one of the chief pastimes of the period. Everything is sacred in the Rig Veda. No. There is a lot of secular ideas in the Rig Veda, and the kind of life that is depicted is one of diversity, not simply ritualistic tradition and so on. In the context of the gambler, there is what is called as the aksha, the dice that you throw is referred to as aksha. But this word aksha has another dimension, and that is the significance of the hymn. Within the collective, within the gana, you know, it's tribal society, and it's a well-knit society with some kind of an internal order. And it is this collective which determines the portions that should accrue to each member of the society. Although it is a tribal society, there is also the kind of labor that is put forth and the result of that labor. How are you going to be compensated? You must be compensated for your labor even in a tribal society. Aksha is the instrument that they employ for determining the quantum of what belongs to each member of the community, depending on perhaps his work, and of course we are not told exactly what are the norms there were for determining the quantum of share of each individual. Aksha has been one of the instruments, one of the means with which this tribal society of Rig Vedic times apportioned the shares for the individuals within the community. The soliloquy of the monologue of the poet ends, Akshair ma devyaha Krishimit Krishasva Vitte Ramasya Bahumanyamana. For the 100th time he is telling himself, you give up this gambling habit. Take to cultivation of land, Krishi. Why don't you do that? And then be happy. And then also being recognized by your fellow members of the community with dignity, honor, and so on. That there is a secular content in the Rig Veda is what hymns like this bring out. Rig Veda is not a compendium of religious ideas and hymns only.